All right, greetings. Welcome back to another Black Bear News upload. You can follow us on Rockfin, Rumble, YouTube, and TikTok at Black Bear News. And if you would like to support the show, you can support it by the links in the description box. They're all there. All right, so Cyrus mentioned this in the comments of the last video, and this is fairly big news. California is going to halt the sales of diesel motorhomes starting January 1st. This is all due to a new rule called the Advanced Clean Truck or Act regulations. Essentially, these new regulations require that all vehicles over 8,500 pounds of gross vehicle weight must produce zero emissions. The credit system allows manufacturers to continue to sell a given number of fossil fuel engines in California, provided they have non-polluting vehicles to offset, carbon offsets. And however, motorhomes are being included under this rule. They thought they were going to have an exemption, but not so much. And there are very few, if none at all, electric motorhomes of a certain weight for sale. So 5 states have followed California's lead and signed on to this CARB Advanced Clean Truck bandwagon. This is California, Oregon, Washington, New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. You will not be able to register a motorhome that is not compliant with the Act regulation. So some people might see this as a win for those who are concerned about climate change and or pollution, and there may be differing opinions on this. My first thought when I heard about this rule was how it would affect all of the homeless people living in RVs and motorhomes, because there are a lot of people living in RVs and motorhomes in Los Angeles, where I live. And I've been looking up the rules around this, and it seems like it affects, it does affect RVs that are on the road. So you have to your RV has to comply with these rules if it's over a given weight. And it has to be tested, and you have to pass the test in order to register your RV. So it not only affects new RV sales, it affects RVs that are on the road. So it actually would affect people who are living in their vehicles if your vehicle is, again, over a certain weight. This is very interesting. I think this might actually be targeted somewhat, including motorhomes under this rule. I think it's targeting people who are considering and or already living in a motorhome. And we'll see how this plays out. Next, we're going to look at a couple of Trump picks that might be a positive. Obviously, he's been filling his cabinet with neocons and staunch Israeli supporters or Israel supporters, and all of those picks don't really signal very good things for the near future. But there are a few picks in the Trump cabinet that could have positive results, and so we're just going to talk about this for a moment. First up is Massey as Secretary of Agriculture, and Massey is he is a rancher, a farmer. Joel Salatin is going to be an advisor, and Joel Salatin is a big proponent of the homesteader movement. So this actually could be seen as a win, especially for people who are interested in growing their own food and homesteading and having backyard gardens. There has been an increased crackdown on homesteaders, small farmers, and backyard gardeners. They've been increasing the rules about compliance. I covered a story last year about backyard gardeners having to come into compliance with certain codes and how they were growing their food, and it was definitely a case of government overreach. So, this could signal a turnaround in a positive way for people who are interested in growing their own food and keeping their own livestock, and or selling things that are from the farm and not having to be overly regulated, like raw milk. That, we've seen a big crackdown on Amish farmers and the sales of certain foods, less regulated and or unregulated foods under the USDA rules. So this could be a win. We'll see. And just announced yesterday was Tulsi Gabbard as the head of the DNI. And she's going to be the head of intelligence, director of national intelligence. So this also is an interesting move because Tulsi is a reformer. She has always been, kind of a free thinker. She has always been outside of the mainstream narrative, especially on how we handle foreign entanglements. She's been critical of the CIA's involvement in Syria and elsewhere. Could this be a positive move and an eventual shakeup or reforming of the intelligence agencies? Hopefully so. They seem to. They're obviously have run amok. They're obviously doing things that they shouldn't be doing. They're obviously involved in, well, a lot of people think they're involved in selecting presidents and or tipping elections in a certain direction. So is she going to reform any of that? Is she going to be a positive influence on that? Again, we don't know. I like Tulsi Gabbard. I think this could be a positive. And lastly, yesterday there was a brief discussion about how long pollution and or environmental damage has been inflicted by humans on the planet. And some people were saying, 500 years. And I kind of pushed back on that, and I said, we've been doing, really wholesale damage for the last 100 years. And maybe the stuff that was going on prior to that was maybe negligible. But interestingly enough, I ran across this article today, which made me think of that conversation about how environmental pollution was an issue back in 1306. The first environmental law was passed in 1306. Unhealthy air can feel like a modern problem, or at least a post-industrial one. But humans have been breathing dirty air for a long time and protesting it just as long. In ancient Rome, courts considered civil claims against people and businesses that released too much smoke in the air. And Byzantine Emperor Justinian declared clean air to be a human right. Then in 1306, King Edward I of England passed what's often considered to be the first environmental law when he made a proclamation banning coal burning. Until the mid-13th century, British people burned wood to stay warm, but as cities such as London expanded and populations boomed, wood became scarce. Demand for firewood and timber increased, and forest land was cleared for agricultural uses. So those who couldn't afford the rising price of firewood turned to something readily available, sea coal, now simply known as coal. At the time, coal was referred to charcoal. It's unclear exactly why it was called sea coal, but it may have had something to do with how Brits would gather it from beaches along the North Sea. Not only did sea coal produce thick smoke and an awful smell, but it also was woefully inefficient. So furnaces needed more coal to produce the same amount of heat as wood. Eventually, the pollution was so bad in London in 1285 that they had to pass this law banning the burning of coal, which is a good thing. And that ties all the way back to the first story, the beginning of this video. I think banning diesel burning trucks in motorhomes is a good thing. I don't know about forcing people into buying electric ones. I don't know that that's a good thing. But I think taking the smoke and the pollution and nonsense out of the air, I think that's a step in the right direction. What say you? Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you. Like, comment, share, all that kind of stuff. We'll see you next time.